Somewhere beneath the Pacific, a submarine the size of a football field is slowly filling up with trash. USS Henry M. Jackson carries about 155 sailors, and every single day they produce enough waste to pack a small dumpster. There's no surfacing, no supply ship, no easy way out. For nearly 3 months, all of it stays on board. Food scraps, plastic packaging, sewage, everything. And here's the part most people never hear about. The way these subs deal with tons of trapped waste is so unusual that it almost sounds impossible. And it's nothing short of engineering genius. A daily mountain of waste. On a modern nuclear-powered U.S. Navy submarine, every day beneath the waves, the crew produces a surprising variety and volume of waste. But just like on the surface, there's no convenient way to toss the waste overboard. Even worse, the submarine space is extremely limited, and with a lot of sailors, so every scrap, can, and drip of wastewater must be managed carefully. Submariners start patrols with minimal packaging. All the cardboard holding food and other items is unpacked before loading, and most of the food arrives in metal cans to reduce waste. During missions, crew members generate solid trash from food scraps, paper, plastics, and cans. This includes a significant amount of food waste from meal preparation and scraps, which can amount to over 23 kilograms per day, and used metal cans from the galley, which can number in the hundreds weekly. The dry waste is compacted, often in onboard compactors, then packed into special heavy perforated steel disposal cans. The combined mass of the can and compacted trash provides negative buoyancy, so that when these cans are ejected, they sink, avoiding floating debris. Because of environmental rules, plastics are especially tightly controlled. Submarines try to minimize plastic waste and, when possible, store it for port disposal rather than dump it out at sea. A typical patrol can generate over 7 kilograms of plastic waste daily from food wrappers, packaging, and disposable utensils. And there's the liquid waste. Submarines produce gray water from sinks, showers, and laundry, and black water from sewage and bilge water. These are stored in holding tanks. A crew of over 150 can generate thousands of gallons of gray water daily from showers and sinks, and hundreds of gallons of sewage, also known as black water. There's also the human waste from toilets, which goes into sanitary tanks. Submarines have strict policies concerning what can be discharged, but it also depends on the distance from shore, water depth, buoyancy, and environmental regulations. It's like normal garbage, but managing it isn't as simple as you might think. Submarines process waste in a way different from your typical ship or boat. The deep-sea garbage disposal. On a submarine, waste processing is a highly engineered operation. They don't just toss trash overboard, but they carefully treat, compact, and store waste. Dry waste like food scraps, paper, metal, and glass is first compacted. The crew uses a trash compactor to squeeze down the volume, then packs the compacted refuse into these special heavy perforated steel cans. The cans are designed to be negatively buoyant, ensuring they'll sink rather than float. Once that's achieved, the can is ejected through a trash disposal unit, essentially a vertical tube with a ball valve. When the valve opens, the weighted can drops into the sea, aided by both gravity and pressurized air. Plastics are treated differently because of strict regulations. On some submarines, plastics are shredded and fed into a compress melt processor. That machine heats and compresses the shredded, rinsed plastic into dense discs, or in submarine slang, pizzas, about 20 inches in diameter and a few inches thick. This drastically reduces their volume. These plastic pucks are then stored on board until the submarine returns to port and can offload them properly. On boats without this system, plastics are compacted and stored whole. Liquid waste, like gray water from sinks and showers and oily bilge water, goes through separation before any discharge. Submarines collect this in holding tanks, where oily and non-oily components are separated by gravity. The cleaner water phase can be pumped out after meeting strict standards, but the oily residue is stored in special tanks until it can be transferred to shore. As for toilet waste, which is called black water, submarines use sanitary tanks. When conditions permit, and always under strict rules about location and depth, these tanks are blown or pumped overboard. This is only done after making sure the submarine's external valves can safely open to the sea. Nowadays, modern submarines come with more advanced sewage systems to handle the liquid waste, making it easier for over 100 sailors on board to handle tons of waste over months underwater. Treating sewage and wastewater. On a modern U.S. Navy submarine underwater, these vessels rely on surprisingly sophisticated sewage systems to handle liquid waste in a way that's safe, stealthy, and environmentally responsible. Unlike older, simple tank and dump setups, modern submarines use segregated wastewater systems. The oil bilge water is separated by gravity in holding tanks, and the clean water layer will be safely discharged. The oil is kept on board until it can be offloaded later. For non-oily wastewater from showers, sinks, and laundry, research is ongoing, with scientists experimenting with technologies like membrane bioreactors. However, operational submarines primarily rely on holding and discharge within regulations. The most critical water purification system on board, reverse osmosis, is primarily used for producing fresh, clean water from seawater for the crew and equipment, not for recycling wastewater. The Navy actively researches modular wastewater treatment modules, designed to be compact, autonomous, and capable of rapid startup. It blends physical, biological, and chemical processes to treat both gray and black water to high environmental standards. The Navy continues to focus on environmental compliance and protecting the waters. After all, they can't just dump waste each time the submarine is underwater, as this would eventually ruin our oceans. Environmental compliance. Even though submarines operate far under the waves, the U.S. Navy holds them to strict environmental standards. Under federal law, submarines cannot dump anything without following strict limits. They have to follow the discharge rules, which are similar to international norms. Under the Uniform National Discharge Standards, submarine bilge water, which can contain oil, cleaning solvents, and other contaminants, must be treated before being released. Any discharge must be free from visible oil sheen and have low oil content so that it won't pollute the marine waters. When it comes to solid waste, submariners must also obey rules derived from international maritime law. The Navy's Solid Waste Management Plan permits the discharge of compacted, negatively buoyant, non-plastic trash, but only beyond certain distances from shore. The regulations prohibit dumping such waste within 12 nautical miles of land and are even more restrictive near foreign coasts. Plastics are generally prohibited from being discharged at sea. Submarines must retain plastic waste for recycling or disposal on shore. For sewage, the Navy uses what are known as collection, holding, and transfer systems, where they store human waste on board until it can be safely discharged or removed ashore. In some cases, the stored sewage might be discharged, but only when the water quality meets strict criteria and the submarine is in permitted waters. Aside from following the law, the Navy's submarine bases embrace environmental leadership. At Navy Submarine Base New London, for instance, there's a formal environmental management system policy that focuses on pollution prevention, waste minimization, and safe disposal. Submarine crews are trained not just to be operationally effective, but also to think ecologically. They are taught about reducing plastics, responsibly packaging trash, and using technology that meets or exceeds legal discharge standards. So, even in the hidden, high-pressure world of submarines, environmental compliance remains a top priority. Nowadays, the modern submarines come with new waste management technology, allowing them to handle tons of trash and waste while staying underwater for weeks to months. Before we talk about this next-gen waste processing technology, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. Next-gen waste technology. While much of the Navy's most advanced waste destruction technology has been developed for surface ships, some of the same principles and systems are increasingly relevant for submarines. This is especially since compact, efficient solutions are needed. One of the most notable areas of research is thermal destruction, like plasma arc destruction. This remains primarily a technology for larger vessels and land-based applications due to its power and space requirements, and is not standard on submarines. Aside from thermal destruction, there is strong research into membrane-based water treatment systems. Recent military R&D has explored integrating reverse osmosis and ultrafiltration with other techniques like ozonation or chlorination to purify wastewater on board. These membrane systems are being designed to recycle water efficiently, reducing fresh water demand and minimizing discharge. This is important for stealthy, long-duration submarine missions. Some experiments also combine RO with forward osmosis, which can operate more passively in emergency or low-power scenarios. Submarines are also evaluating modular, energy-efficient gray water treatment systems, under development through Navy Small Business Innovation Research programs. These systems aim to be rugged, compact, and largely autonomous, with real-time sensors and control to adjust treatment based on the quality of input wastewater. When things get messy, managing waste on submarines is far from straightforward. One of the biggest challenges is very limited space. Submariners are in tight quarters, so storing trash and sewage takes up real estate that could otherwise be used for supplies, equipment, or crew living areas. Disposal is another problem. Tossing waste overboard isn't as simple as opening a valve. Any discharge risks making noise, compromising stealth, or exposing the submarine's location. The ball valve tubes used to eject weighted trash cans can be dangerous operations, especially under pressure. Wastewater systems also pose headaches. Submarines segregate oily bilge water, but the separated oil must be stored for later offloading rather than dumped because of environmental regulations. The storage tanks fill up pretty quickly, and that's not ideal on a vessel that's supposed to stay hidden and submerged for long stretches. Aside from technology, another problem is the packages. A lot of paper and plastic waste is contaminated by food, and this affects how it's handled or stored. While compacting and weighing trash is helpful, the process of putting it into perforated steel cans to ensure it sinks is time-consuming and labor-intensive. There are also regulatory and environmental constraints. Submarines must follow strict discharge limits under MARPOL and U.S. law, making some types of dumping difficult or forbidden. The need to balance mission urgency against the rules of environmental compliance can create real tension in operational planning. Finally, the systems themselves, from pulpers to compactors, aren't immune to wear and tear. Parts become outdated, and maintenance of these waste systems requires one to spend money on spare parts and funding. Despite all these challenges and failures that submarines face, waste management is one of the most important yet overlooked aspects of maintaining a submarine. Why waste management is critical? Waste management on submarines is absolutely critical for several reasons. First, the confined environment means that every bit of trash or sewage must be handled efficiently. There's no room for overflowing bins or long-term storage of untreated waste. Poor waste control can quickly degrade living conditions, threatening crew health. Second, submarines operate under strict environmental rules. They must compact, treat, or store waste so that any discharge meets legal standards, especially far from shore. Third, improper discharge could compromise stealth, like opening external valves or running pumps too loudly to dump waste, which can risk detection. Beyond the mission itself, smart waste management supports long-endurance patrols. By reducing the volume of waste, like unpacking supplies before loading or compacting trash, submarines maximize their storage space for food, parts, and critical gear. And from a sustainability standpoint, effective waste systems help minimize environmental impact. By treating bilge water or gray water and carefully handling non-biodegradable trash, submarines reduce pollution risks. Even with over 100 sailors on the USS Henry M. Jackson, the sailors use sophisticated methods to process waste. You might think that towards the end of a long tour, there would be messy smells and trash, but that's never the case. The submarines are always kept neat and tidy, and the Navy remains committed to environmental responsibility. What do you think can make the U.S. Navy submarines handle waste better? Let's know your thoughts in the comments. For more insights into life in the Navy, subscribe and hit the bell. We'll see you in the next video.